Everyone loves a good plot twist. One of my most memorable theater experiences was seeing Avengers Infinity War on opening weekend, and the collective gasp when Thanos actually snapped. Twists like that are obviously most effective for the audience when nothing spoils the surprise ahead of time. But weirdly enough, knowing the outcome of something can be just as effective when the audience is forced to watch it play through. Another of my most memorable theater experiences came a year later with Avengers Endgame. When the movie opened with Hawkeye spending time with his family, there was a palpable sense of dread, as if all the air had been sucked out of the theater. After the events of Infinity War, this opening did away with the question of how can you surprise the audience, and instead asked, how can you make the audience care even if they know what's coming? How can you make the inevitable still feel devastating? This same question was asked again with the release of Clair Obscur Expedition 33. The reveal trailer from last summer opens with the dulcet tones of Ben Starr telling us,
"Soon she'll wake and paint again. Paint a new number, ticking down every year. One stroke, and everyone of that age vanishes into nothingness."
The game's official description on storefronts tells us this information as well, stating the mission of the titular Expedition 33 is to put a stop to the paintress and her cycle of death. All of this to say, for folks like me who keep an eye on gaming news and showcases across the industry, the yearly erasure of the people of this world was a known quantity. But Sandfall Interactive didn't settle for making the inciting incident, referred to as the Gommage, a mere cutscene. They made it the climax of the prologue. So how do they make the inevitable feel devastating? As soon as the prologue opens, the developers give us a study in contrast. Despite the impending death of anyone over the age of 33, it's immediately noticeable how picturesque the scenery is. It's a beautiful day with blue skies. Our protagonist, Gustav, is passing time on a rooftop garden tossing rocks into the sea. There's no priming us for despair by having him trod somberly in the rain without an umbrella. This is just a day. Soon Gustav's sister, Maëlle, joins him in the garden, where he says he'll get to do more than just throw rocks at the paintress once their expedition departs in the morning. Maëlle remarks that this must have been what all the prior expeditions thought as well. It's here that the game begins to show the true, deeper contrast in Lumiere. The ways in which people choose to react, or to grieve, their morbid circumstances. I wish there was some sort of artful term to describe the use of stark contrast. It's clear from Gustav's response that he is a true believer in the cause of the expeditions. He admonishes Maëlle, telling her the sacrifices of the prior expeditioners have all laid the trail for their own expedition. In other words, even if they didn't succeed in taking down the paintress for good, the things they learned and the trail they left behind all served to help future expeditioners. Their lives were cut short, but they still meant something. When he is reunited with his ex-girlfriend Sophie after 4 years apart, Gustav struggles to find the right words to say about his feelings before her gommage. She helps to ease his nerves by telling him she never faulted him for wanting to believe in the cause of the expeditions, despite not following that path herself. Instead, she's very accepting of her fate. Despite her assurances, he finds it hard to believe that she could be okay. In response, she tells him,
"I'm fine. I've lived 33 good years. Look around. We've had our whole lives to prepare. We're all fine. Mostly.
I'm not fine.
You will be."
As players make their way toward the harbor, there are several areas and people they can interact with. One such person is a girl named Eloise, who's standing near a banner encouraging people to enlist in the next expedition. She expresses resentment for the expeditions, saying they're a joke, and that those people are just abandoning Lumiere to die out on the continent. The views Maëlle expresses seem to fall somewhere in between these other three. She believes enough in the expedition to join it despite being half the age of everyone else, but also seems fatalistic about their chances of success. When Gustav asks her one last time if she's sure she wants to go, she remarks that 1 year out on the continent with the expedition is better than 9 years being stuck in Lumiere. Showing these contrasting feelings on the Gommage and the expeditions helps us to understand the complexity of the grief they must be enduring as the cycle of death continues. Some turn to action, Some find acceptance and make the most of the time they have left, and some are left angry and bitter at their endless losses and the future that's being stolen from them. This is such an impactful way to start the journey because of how well it reflects reality. All of us probably relate to one of these responses to trauma and grief more than the others, but none of them are wrong responses. Grief is all of these things. The important part is not which aspect you feel, but that you allow yourself to feel it. This is what Gustave is embracing by accompanying Sophie to the harbor, and by extension, why the gommage is so impactful for the player despite knowing what's coming. When the paintress is about to wake, there's a palpable tension. Gustave and Sophie watch, hand in hand, to see whether or not she'll truly paint again. It's framed as if part of them believes, against all odds, that the cycle won't actually continue. But it does. Slowly, all the 33-year-old citizens begin to fade away, leaving nothing but flower petals behind. Parents slip away from their children's grasp. Other children embrace each other underneath their festive masks, unable to watch. Maëlle watches on as a street full of people disappears. Gustave and Sophie share one final moment together as he reassures her that he is there. We see him drop to his knee with a monolith looming in the distance, staring at it with determination in the midst of his mourning. That final moment with Gustave before the scene ends is a perfect representation for why this opening segment is so effective. Whether from trailers or from the game description, many gamers knew about the gommage before the game's release, just as Gustave knew what was going to be happening. But the inevitable is still devastating because the people feel so real. If the game had merely opened with a voiced-over cutscene of Gustave describing what the gommage was before watching it happen, it wouldn't have been nearly as impactful. In order for us to understand exactly what's at stake in this world, we need to be able to walk those streets, see the leftover garlands because of how few people have even made it to age 33, and hear the contrasting ways these characters have adapted, or have refused to adapt, to their harsh reality. As our main protagonist, Gustave's determination in the face of grief now becomes our determination. We believe in the cause of the expedition and their mission to stop the paintress because of how strongly he believes in it. His response to the yearly gommage was to dedicate himself fully to changing things, even if that dedication is implied to have driven a wedge between himself and Sophie. However, rather than try to paint our protagonist as having made the objectively correct choice, the developers are clear in showing us that both of their paths were valid. Sophie affectionately tells Gustave that he is the most stubborn person she knows, and that it's the stubborn people who end up changing things. As much as we may be inclined to side with our hero's decisions, Sophie's assessment is accurate. If we were to match each character to a traditional stage of grief, Gustave could easily be labeled as denial, while Sophie embodies acceptance. She says herself that she's content with her life and knows what she can and cannot change. She doesn't see the Gamage as a battle to be fought, but as a defined end that drives her to make the most of the time she has. Rounding out the three most clearly defined reactions will be Eloise's anger. Yet again, the dialogue between characters helps us to understand and empathize with her point of view. Her father left on Expedition 34 a year prior, an expedition that clearly did not result in the paintress's demise. It was more important to her that she get to spend more time with her father before his Gamage, so his expedition's lack of success just deepens the wound his loss has made. By the time our interaction with her is over, she seems to at least be considering how her father's decision was made with her in mind, but that pain won't fade overnight. Even though Maël's reaction to the Gamage and the expedition doesn't fit as neatly into a category as the others, it's no less valid. She finds it odd to festively celebrate the lives of people who shouldn't be taken away so soon, and yet she volunteers for a mission with a 100% failure rate. In a way, she seems to be doing the exact thing Eloise accused expeditioners of doing, just choosing a different place to die rather than making the most out of life in the city. Maël's reaction to her circumstances is hardest to place because there is no uniformity in how we, or these characters, react in the face of grief. There's room for nuance and, as a result, room for discomfort. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a brilliant study in contrast. Like any masterpiece, it's made all the better by having many different shades come together to tell a story. Each of the characters, and each of us, have to make the choices that we feel are best based on the hand we're dealt. Yet all of these different responses help to paint the picture of what it means to be human. What have you thought of Clair Obscur Expedition 33? Let me know in the comments. And as always, play what you love and love what you play.